Heidi, hi everybody, good morning. It's nearly Friday, so it's got to be a good day of the week. My name is Colette Matriga from Colette's Thermy Kitchen. We are on a sourdough journey and we are currently on day 4. So what we're going to do today is have a look at my sourdough, see what's happening, have a little talk about some of the basics again, and I just want to introduce you to a couple of optional little tools that you might want to start thinking about. So let's get going. So here's my little starter. How is yours going? What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a little space on my Facebook page, and it's going to be called where you at. So that's if you can just post any pictures and things like that in, because with so many days I'm finding it hard to go back and answer people's questions. So okay, so let's have a little look. So here's my starter. Quite pleased with how it's progressing. So you can see I have got quite a few bubbles now forming, much bigger bubbles. Those little pinholes have kind of not so there, so you can see all those beautiful bubbles. Now I did have quite a few bubbles on top, but moving it and popping it on the bench, they kind of disappeared. So you can see that's my starter now inside. So what's going to happen is it's exactly the same process, and I can see it's really foamy. It's actually increased in size. So it's looking good. So Sharon, you said yours doubled overnight, and I'm not sure what's happened here. I can't see your comments. Good idea. Put a sock on it. I never thought of that. Great idea. Put a little sock on it to keep it warm. I love that. Better than me getting a tea towel and popping that all the way around. But it's all about, so don't panic. If yours is not quite as bubbly yet, please don't panic, just don't give up on it. So, but what you do need to do, have a smell, have a look at it, and see what's actually happening. Now, if not a lot of activity is happening, it means that you need to reassess the environment that you're keeping it in. You've checked your flowers are good and you're using nice kind of warm water that's not above 27. What you might need to do is to find a new home to put it once you've fed it. I've found that actually in the cupboard where my Wi-Fi box is quite nice and warm. But what I would recommend is that you pop it into a bowl, because I have got caught out quite a few times where suddenly it just explodes, not explodes, but grows and grows and then overflows, which is a wonderful feeling, but it's really messy. So consider putting it into a bowl or on a plate or something in case that happens. So look for that sweet spot. Now, if by about day 8 nothing's happening, the chances are that maybe nothing will happen with it. And there is something that we haven't talked about yet which can impact on the growth of your starter. And that is, this is a bizarre one, but that is how clean your house is. So Andrew does the cleaning, which is wonderful. He loves his sprays and all this kind of stuff. If you use too much spray and your house is ultra clean, you're cleaning that workbench down multiple times, what you're doing is you're killing off all the natural yeast in your environment. So that could be another thing that impacts. So basically what we are looking for before we bake that first sourdough is we want to actually look for consistent double growth of our starter. So what that means is you feed it, which is what we're going to do in a minute, and then up to about 8 hours after that feed, if it hasn't doubled in size, it's not ready yet to make a loaf. And I'll be showing you a few little hacks like the float test a little bit later on as we progress with our journey to make sure that that sourdough starter is in the perfect condition to make our first loaf. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to feed it. Now, for the next 4 days, so this is day 4, the next 4 days I'm not going to come on in the morning, but I will post pictures every day on my Facebook page, because we're doing exactly what we're doing today. We are feeding, observing, feeding, observing. Now, let's go back to a couple of people saying that theirs has doubled, which is great. Now, often it will surprise you. What might happen tomorrow is that it might not double. It's just building that structure, building that strength. And in essence, after 5 days, if you've had doubling a few times, you probably could bake your first loaf of bread, but I wouldn't recommend it. Let's really give this a good sound structure base, so that when we're ready to bake, you know, we will actually have the perfect starter. All right, so I'm just going to push this down a little bit so you can see where I'm at. The other thing is, some of you might have something which is known as hooch. Now, hooch is like a little band of liquid in between, often in between your sourdough. And what hooch is telling you is that it's hungry. Your sourdough is hungry, it wants feeding. So you can give it an extra feed. Now, if in the next day you have had no activity, has anyone had no activity at all? If you've had no activity, what I'd recommend is that you double the feeding routine. You feed it every 12 hours rather than every 24 hours to see what's happening. If ever my starter comes out of the fridge and it's very, very flat, sometimes that's what I need to do to get it going really well. It's just hungry. All right, so here we go, same old, same old. So into here, popping the scales on. I need to discard, and again, our discard is very young. It hasn't got all of those beautiful yeasty nutrients yet, so let's not use that, pop them on the compost heap. But I will be showing you some things you can do with that discard later. So remember, we're working on a 1:1:1 ratio, the same amount of starter to flour to water. So we're going for 60 grams. Now, if suddenly you want to increase the size of that, that's fine. You could actually go for 100 grams. So 100 grams of water, 100 grams of flour, and 100 grams of your starter. So you can increase the size. And I've got a lovely little label that I will post in a few weeks, which you can attach to a nice jar and gift it to someone, and it tells them exactly what to do. So there's lots of reasons why you might want to increase, but it's very easy. 500 grams, that's huge, and you might have a few problems. I've never done it quite that big. That's a lot. All right, so here we go. So we want 60 grams of our original starter, and just to show you here, you can see mine is actually, it sounds beautiful now, and I can see lots of kind of bubbles happening. It's sounding, I can't describe that word, but it's sounding lovely. And as I'm pushing it to one side, I'm not sure if you can see, but I'm actually seeing bubbles, which is wonderful. Right, so 60 grams of that starter. Okay, that's fine. Got 60, we'll take a little bit out, it's a bit much there. Okay, and then we have got, I'm doing half and half. Now on the flours, if you've got a really active starter and it's bubbly and it's just wonderful, what you can do is you can cut out the rye, and you could just go to 60 grams of your unbleached, chemical-free, you know, your white flour. Obviously Josh was kidding about the 500. I thought, wow, that's an awful lot. So you could just do all white. So the reason why you would do that is that the rye gives it an extra nutritional boost. It gives it something extra to feed on. But if you've got a really active starter, you might decide to pull that away and just work with this. So you can alter that. So 30 grams of white, 30 grams of your rye or wholemeal or whatever you're using. And again, I've got 60 grams of water, which I have heated to around 27 degrees. This is just bottled water. And remember, spring water, etc., is naturally filtered. But I'm going to put in 60 grams. and give it a mix. So it's exactly the same as what we did yesterday, and this is exactly the same as what you're going to be doing for the next 4 days. So we're going to come together on video Monday morning, and we can have a little bit of a chat. You can ask questions and things. Don't worry yet. So if it doesn't grow, Susie, that's absolutely fine. It's still very early. It could take a couple of weeks for some of you. But as I said to you, if by about Monday you've had nothing happening, maybe you've got to assess where it is, what kind of situation, temperature wise, and no drafts and things like that. So if you've got no bubbles and nothing's happening, what I suggest you do maybe is give it a double feed. So today, feed it in the morning, feed it at night time, and just give it a little extra boost. Okay, all right, here we go. Just scraping that down, and that is all good. So no flowery bits left. It doesn't matter if there is a little flowery bit left, but that's okay. So that's now ready to put the band back on. Now you can of course use the same jar, we've talked about that, and you could just measure your jar and then just calculate it that way. But I like to then just get some kitchen paper, just wipe around the jar, and then keep it nice and tidy, because your jars can get very messy. All right, so that's ready now to go. So just a couple of other things. We've talked about hooch. We've talked about giving it a double feed if there isn't that much activity. Other things that you might notice, if any of you have any mold growing on top of your starter, you'll need to throw that away and start again. That sometimes does happen. But basically by Monday, what we should actually have is a really completely alive starter, foamy with bubbles, full of health, and creating, a rich a range of complex lactobacteria and yeast, and we are on that journey. But remember, the biggest thing that we're looking for is patience, patience, patience. If all of you don't have that Monday, it's still okay. Do not throw your starter away, all right? It's still fine as long as you're getting those bubbles. Bubbles are an important indication of activity. All right, so basically, so that's the starter. So that's what everyone needs to do, which is awesome. So just in terms of things that you want to start getting ready or considering for when you make your first loaf of bread. Now you can actually just do it as a basic dough and pop that onto a baking tray with something to support the sides so it doesn't flatten down. Now what I like to use, I do like to ferment or to proof my bread in the proofing baskets, and you can get all sorts of these, and actually the mix shop sell proofing baskets, and they're beautiful. You can get covers that you can put inside. I personally don't like the covers. I love the groove lines that your baskets will actually give. It makes your bread look absolutely beautiful, and they come in all shapes and sizes. You can even get plastic ones. I love the baskets. This is what they used back in the day, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. This is how they made their bread. So think about what you want to do there. You could do it in a cast iron, and I'll be talking to you about how to do that, but it's a different kinds of loaves. And then I think you've probably all got one of these already. You will need a dough scraper. Absolutely, you will need one of these. And if you do end up getting a proofing basket, hunt through. Kmart will probably have some. This is a proper proofing basket cleaner to get rid of the excess flour and dough, but any little brush will do that's quite firm. Probably actually even the Thermomix bowl brush, which are a few dollars. You can get one of those, and that will be good for cleaning the basket afterwards. And apart from that, there is something called a lame or lame, L-A-M-E. Again, that's on the mix shop, but you can buy those in other kitchen shops. And what they are, it's basically a handle. I can't find mine. I did have a quick look. I've got a feeling it's in there, but it's got a handle, and at the end of the handle, there's a razor. So what is important when we cook our sourdough is that we create ears. And the ears are done by slashing and creating pretty designs on your bread. And what that does, it opens the bread up and allows some of the gases to escape. And if you do it with a knife, knives can drag because they're a lot thicker. Whereas the lame, which is on a handle, you don't want to be holding a blade and doing it. You're likely to cut yourself. But on the handle, that will make slashing a lot easier. And I think that's about it in terms of the kind of equipment that you need. It's pretty straightforward. All right, so apple, I haven't put apple in this. So I have, in my original starter, which is probably about 6 years old, I think, I must find the date for it. I started that off with apple, and you can put apple in for a feed, you can put raisins in, but you only kind of do that right at the beginning of when you're starting out. So I always start out with yogurt, and I just wanted to keep this one a bit easier. So absolutely fine. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I will in the next hour pop up the day 4 instructions for you, and don't forget, if you head off to my blog, you will find a menu heading called sourdough, and you'll find everything in there. And over the next 4 days, please check in on Facebook and on my blog. I will be putting little tips and other bits of information for you, you know, about, yeah, lots of other little bits of information for you to read, so you can be experts. Excellent. All right, thank you, everybody. Just have a quick look down. All right, fantastic. All right, love the sock. Love the sock idea. That's good. I've never heard of that before. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you live on Facebook Monday, but I'm coming live tonight in my kitchen, and I'm going to be showing you how to make my doggy biscuits. All right, everyone. Take care. See you again soon. Bye.